To all the real ones tuning in at the beginning of today's show, welcome into Steelers Talk on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Today we got a bunch of great Steelers news and rumors to cover with you guys live right here on YouTube. So once again, shout out to all the real ones that joined us right here at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about the latest news and rumors surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's a very interesting wide receiver that has been linked to the Pittsburgh Steelers by Pro Football Focus. We'll talk about that here in about 2 or 3 minutes or so. Also, updated Steelers offensive targets for this offseason after signing, or hiring, I should say, Arthur Smith to be their next offensive coordinator. Some dynamics have changed. Some players maybe don't fit the offense as much as maybe somebody like an Eric Bieniemy or maybe a Clint Kubiak, right? This is a very specific offense, and some guys that have been here over the last several years may not fit this offense anymore. So earlier today, if you guys watched our earlier video, we did the trade candidates, some guys that might be worth trading on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Today, we're going to be talking about the guys to add to this offense here in 2024. Also, we're going to be going over ESPN's perfect offseason plan for the Pittsburgh Steelers, going over the NFL draft, free agency, their biggest priority this offseason. Then they have a big prediction for the Pittsburgh Steelers here in 2024. And then, as always, you guys have your opportunity to get your voice right here on the show for our Steelers Talk Live mailbag. If you have a question, if you have an idea, if you have a comment, let me know down there in the live chat. Use hashtag Steelers or Super Chat to get your comment, your idea, whatever the case may be, your question on today's show. Producer Coop is already waving his terrible towel. You got to love it, baby. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Producer Coop, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm good, man. It's been a very busy week in Steelers Nation, and there's more to come, I believe. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So this is actually our second live show in 2 days here. Of course,
yes,
yesterday,
indeed.
Pittsburgh Steelers hired Arthur Smith to be their next offensive coordinator. And if you guys watched yesterday's show, you guys know that we like the move maybe more than some of the crybaby Steeler fans out there that don't like it as much. I mean, he's an established play caller that's had success in this league with similar personnel, and I'm excited to see what Arthur Smith is going to do. Yes, would I have rather had Clint Kubiak? Sure. Would I have rather had Brian Greasy? Sure. But Arthur Smith was definitely on the top 10 list of names that I would have gotten for this job.
For sure.
And the fact that they got one of those guys and not like a freaking Matt Canada again, I'm grateful for that. All right. So I'm excited to see what this offense is going to look like. I think it's going to be good for Kenny Pickett's development. I think it's going to be good for Najee Harris's development. I think it's going to be really good for George Pickens' development. But let me know down there in the comment section, do you think the Steelers will have a top 15 offense, an above-average offense in 2024? Give me a yes or no for a shout-out down there in the live chat. I see Michaela is down there saying yes. I see Nevia. I see Lil Slush says sure hope so. Anthony is saying yes. Daniel is here. He's saying, yo, what's up? Christopher Roy. Then we got Nevia saying yes. We got Titus Kitchen in here. We got Tyler Lane. We got Steelers Dad. We got Ramtick. Everybody is saying yes. So it seems like the optimism is starting to build after this hire here. I think people are starting to realize that this offense is very quarterback friendly. It's going to be good for Kenny Pickett. George Pickens is a perfect fit in it as well. And I'm excited to see what this offense is going to look like with Arthur Smith calling the shots offensively in 2024. Shout out to Frank Campbell, who's here. Eugene Howard was here early. My man Alex Mannerful is here. John is here. Fenno, Dominic, what is good, everybody? Welcome into Steelers Talk Live. We've got a bunch of great stuff coming your way. Now, if you want to donate to the show, okay, so if you guys super chat on today's stream, every single dollar goes to getting you guys more Steelers content. So we really do appreciate all of your guys' support. So any shout out today or any super chat today is going to get a shout out. You're going to get your question on the mailbag, guaranteed. We're going to put it right at the top of the mailbag. $10 today. We'll take shots. I got the fake tequila stuff that just tastes terrible. And then Coop's got Patron. $20 Tortilla Slap. So if I say something that you just completely disagree with and you want Coop to come up and slap me in the face, send in a $20 super chat, and we'll make that happen for you guys. And then $100 total today. You get the Joint Steelers Talk Gold Club. You get a Gold Club sticker right next to your super chats for life, and you get a shout out on every single Steelers live show. So here's today's shout outs. Shout out to Austin, Mo Love, Brian Love, Anthony Fuller, Nathan Glass, James Lombardo, DJ V, Patty Gustafson, Elliptic 6, Alexander, Zach, Troy, Andrew, Jesse, Go Blue Buckeye, Sam, Hot Rod 24, Black and Gold Emperor 40, Lord Buddy Bear, Max, Chad, F1, Steelers Dad, K Drizzy, Andrew, Jesper, Jacob, Nightmare Sporting, XD, DJ KJ, Gwendolyn, Latanya, Etheria, Jesper, KJ, Live Life. Sorry we don't got the gold on you there, my friend. Kenny Pickettsburg, Ryan Ament, Marilyn Krieger, Matthew Bly, and Brian Hagan. Coop's looking at me funny. He's trying to make sure I said his name right. But Brian, if you're watching, yes, I did get you. Oh no, where's Marilyn's sticker?
Oh, I got it. That's an F, Coop.
Oh no, if Marilyn Krieger, our latest Black Diamond's watching, we got your sticker. But here are our Black Diamonds. These are the people that put up at least $500 on a singular stream in Super Chats or Venmos. So shout out to Sam Pugh, F1 Video Watcher, Nathan Glass, Kurgan Cold, Go Blue Buckeye, Elliptic 6, Gwendolyn, and Marilyn Krieger.
Give me 20 seconds, Marilyn.
So 20 seconds. So if you want to join Black Diamond today, $500, Super Chat, Venmo, whatever the case may be, what you get is you get a customized Steelers jersey that we wear on our watch parties, and you get a customized Super Chat sticker that you can see on the screen
there
right there.
You go.
There's Marilyn's right there. Let's get those going. Uh-oh, get the shots ready to go. We already got our first $10 Super Chat from Kenneth. What's up, Kenny? It's good to see you, my friend. Good to see your face. He says, let's get those shots started. So,
God.
So Coop's going to have to go get those shots. We'll take a shot before we get.
F. Sperry for forgetting the shots.
I forgot the shots before the show, all right? So Coop's going to have to go get the tequila and the fake tequila. Let's go, baby. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Arthur Smith here, of course, hired as the new offensive coordinator for our Pittsburgh Steelers. And, man, I am super excited to see what this offense is going to look like, man. I mean, it's super a lot of the things that he does are the exact opposite of what Matt Canada didn't do, right? Or did do, I should say, right? It's the exact opposite of Matt Canada's offense in a lot of ways. Oh, a $20 super chat from Christopher Roy. And he says, slap me. Okay, I'm guessing he doesn't like Arthur Smith. I'm guessing he doesn't like the hire. All right, and then we got a $5 super chat from Soapy Nugget. Let's go, people. I love it. And he says, has anyone stuck out so far at the Senior Bowl practices so far? So the guys that I have heard the most from, Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle for Oklahoma, absolutely balling out. Jackson Powers Johnson, the center out of Oregon, has been absolutely dominant at the center position. Michael Penix Jr. has played really well in practices at the quarterback position. There's a cornerback from Mizzou. I can't remember his name exactly right now, but he has played really well. No tortillas? God darn it. We don't have tortillas, so we got the paper plates, which actually hurt worse. God damn it. Christ. Oh my gosh, dude. Look. Look how much, I don't know if you guys can see this. Coop filled up this thing like all the way. Oh, oh my gosh. All right. Kenneth, you paid $10. Here we go. By the way, we got a 20. So if we can show Christopher Roy with a $20 super chat. God, that was a lot, dude. I see some people asking, when is the Senior Bowl game? It is this Saturday at, I think, 1 p.m. Eastern or 12 p.m. Eastern. I can't remember. It's in the afternoon, all right? So it's in the early afternoon on Saturday. So make sure you guys watch that. We'll have a video on Monday breaking down the winners and losers from Senior Bowl week.
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do all of the slaps at the end of the show.
All right.
So your face isn't red during these segments.
All right. We'll do all the slaps at the end of the show. So, Christopher, we're not forgetting. All right, we're just going to do them at the end of the show. Okay, $5 super chat from Soapy Nugget says, has anyone stuck out so far at Senior Bowl practices so far? I actually just answered this. Jackson Powers Johnson has looked really good. Michael Penix Jr., Tyler Guyton. Those are kind of the main stars at this point. And we're going to have a whole video for you guys next Monday breaking down which players played the best during Senior Bowl week and which players you should be watching out for as Pittsburgh
But you
Steelers
know who stinks? Bo Nix stinks.
Bo Nix has not played well. His accuracy has not been great to start off the week. But if you love the Pittsburgh Steelers, all right, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon. We've already got 40 likes, all right? So let's get up to 50 likes before we get into our first segment. We got 150 people watching. We just need 10 more likes to get into this first segment. And speaking of our segments today, our first one's going to be the latest news and rumors surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers. Our second one today is we're going to be talking about the updated Steelers offensive targets this offseason after going out and getting Arthur Smith as the new offensive coordinator. We're going to be talking about the ESPN perfect offseason plan where they have a kind of really they have an interesting big surprise in that offseason plan. You're not going to want to miss that. And then, of course, we got the mailbag coming up. Make sure you use hashtag Steelers or Super Chat to get your questions on the show. Christopher Roy with a $5 Super Chat. Let's go. He says, will you get any scoops on the Shrine Bowl? What do you think of younger Tagovailoa? So I think that Talia is okay.
He's fine.
He's fine. I don't think he's ever going to be anything in the NFL. I don't think he's as good of a mental processor as his brother is. So listen, I understand that if you have the same last name as a starting quarterback in the National Football League, they're immediately going to compare you to him. But at the end of the day, I think Tua is just a special mental processor.
And at the end of the day, he wanted to go back to college for his 6th year, but he was ruled ineligible.
Exactly. So that tells me that he knows that he could make more money as a college player this next year than maybe as a pro over the next several years. So for me, I think that he's probably a day 3 quarterback that you kind of hope that he can develop into a guy like his brother Tua, who kind of has a limited skill set, kind of smaller, but somebody that's a really good mental processor, can get the ball where it needs to go. Based on his film in college, I don't think he's on the same level as Tua in that regard. So I think he's more of a day 3 guy as opposed to a day 1 guy. But that's how I feel about Talia Tagovailoa at this point. All right, let's get into this first segment coming at you right now. The latest news and rumors around the black and gold. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and today we have a great slate of Steelers news and rumors to cover with you guys right here on YouTube. First, we're going to talk about Michael Thomas, who Pro Football Focus has linked to the Pittsburgh Steelers as a potential free agency target for the black and gold. Then we'll go over Bleacher Report's trade guide for the 2024 offseason for the Steelers. They list 3 potential trade assets and 3 potential trade targets for the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. Pretty interesting stuff there by Bleacher Report. And then we'll finish off today's show with ESPN's QB target for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL draft. They have them taking this quarterback in the 3rd round, so maybe try to guess who they have the Steelers taking. So now stick around for a juicy rumor from ESPN like we just said, because let me tell you, man, this is going to be interesting what Brooke Pryor from ESPN had to say about which quarterback the Steelers are going to go target in this year's NFL draft. But first, help us beat the Browns, okay? Because Matthew Peterson, the host of the Browns Report here at Chat Sports, has been running his mouth when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is what he had to say this week about the Steelers fans. The Steelers have the softest fans in the entire National Football League. They're constantly crying about TJ Watt not winning Defensive Player of the Year and always talk about how the league hates them even with 6 Super Bowl titles. What a joke. I'm willing to bet a steak dinner we get more likes on today's video. Guys, I need this steak dinner right now from the Browns host, Matthew Peterson. He's a good friend of mine, but listen, man, he's never beaten the Steelers Talk family here. We're not going to let it start today. So make sure you click that thumbs up icon and help us beat the Browns today and help me win a steak dinner from Browns host, Matthew Peterson. So now, is Michael Thomas the perfect fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers in free agency. Pro Football Focus and their staff seems to think so, and they have linked him as a potential fit for the black and gold in 2024. This is what the Pro Football Focus staff had to say about Michael Thomas to the Steelers. Pittsburgh brought Allen Robinson aboard to serve as a big slot possession receiver in 2023, and while his lack of production was not entirely his own doing, perhaps the Steelers take another swing with Thomas coming in as the number 3 alongside Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. Moving Johnson and Pickens into the slot more to help create more separation on outbreakers like corner routes, an area Pickens excelled in 2023, adds more versatility to the whole unit. Now, I'd be fine with Michael Thomas. I think that he hasn't played high-level football in the last several years, but I think that he's a talented individual, bigger receiver, good blocker, someone that Arthur Smith would really like. But if I'm going to pick a receiver in free agency, I think I'm going to pick Tyler Boyd, Pittsburgh native, Pitt Panther. Would really love to come to this organization, might even take a little bit of a pay cut to be able to play for the black and gold, and he's got good size, can play versatility. They're playing the slot and outside. I think he's a perfect fit for this team, and if I'm going to pick one free agent wide receiver to go out and get, I'm going to pick the Pittsburgh native, Tyler Boyd. Now let me know down there in the comments section, who is your guy? Which NFL free agent do you want the Pittsburgh Steelers to target this offseason? Is it Michael Thomas? Is it Tyler Boyd? Is it L'Jarius Sneed? Is it Jalen Johnson? Let me know down there in the comments section which NFL free agent you would love to see the Steelers target this offseason. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. So now let's get into this trade guide that Bleacher Report put out for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2024. And let's start with the trade assets that they see for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, which is the number 20 overall pick in the first round. You got Patrick Peterson, the defensive back, and Chukwuma Okorafor, the offensive tackle. This is what Bleacher Report had to say about the trade assets here in Pittsburgh. If they can find a suitor for Chukwuma Okorafor, it would make a lot of sense to send him to a team willing to part with a pick. He is a cap casualty candidate anyway, who would clear $8.7 million in cap space and lost his job to Broderick Jones. Patrick Peterson is a trade asset for similar reasons. He moved to safety the final few games of the season, and trading him would clear just under $7 million. They also have the 20th overall selection and 7 picks in the draft if they want to move up or down the board. Now, when it comes to Patrick Peterson, we'll start with him. I think he's moving to safety, and I think the Steelers are going to keep him on the roster. I think that they value the leadership that he brings to the locker room. I think they appreciate and value his veteran savvy and his wisdom in that locker room. So I do think they're going to try to keep him around, and I think they're going to play him alongside Minkah Fitzpatrick at safety in 2024. And then when it comes to Chukwuma Okorafor, good luck moving him, man. He got benched last year. He's had some behavior issues, all these different things, has not played good football in several years at this point. And I just don't know if anybody is going to be willing to part ways with him. Now, maybe there's a sucker out there that will give you a 7th-round pick for somebody with starting experience in the National Football League. In that case, I would absolutely take that. If you could get a 7th-round pick and get him off your books for 2024, I would absolutely take that. But if you can't get a sucker to trade for him, I would just cut Chukwuma Okorafor this offseason. If you want to check out my thoughts on the trade candidates for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I list out 6 trade candidates for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2024 after the hiring of Arthur Smith. So if you want to check that out and see which players on the Steelers roster might get dealt this offseason, I'm going to put the link in the comments and description of today's show. Now, coming up here, I got more Steelers trade targets to discuss here from Bleacher Report. They got 3 trade targets for the Steelers to consider this offseason. But before I get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. If you want this year's Super Bowl to be even more interesting, you can get started with our friends at PrizePicks today. And what PrizePicks is that it's a skill-based, real money, daily fantasy sports game. And if you're wondering how that works, here's how you play. You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll go for more or less than their prize picks projection, and you can even win up to 25 times your money on any entry. So my entry for Super Bowl 58 between the 49ers and the Chiefs, I'm going to take the more on Christian McCaffrey rush yards. I'm going to take the more on Travis Kelce receiving yards. And the same thing with the other tight end, George Kittle. I'm going to take the more. I'm an optimist. I'm going to take the more on these 3 guys, but you can get your picks in now when you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. At Prize Picks, you aren't competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks that are just looking to take advantage of you. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. That's code CLNS at prizepicks.com/CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. So now let's talk about the top trade targets for the Pittsburgh Steelers. According to Bleacher Reports, an early draft pick in the first round, so they're saying use that number 20 overall pick to trade up. Ted Karras, the center from the Cincinnati Bengals, or Jonathan Jones, the cornerback from the New England Patriots. Let's start with Ted Karras here and what they had to say about going and getting the Bengals center. Ted Karras is a solid veteran center who would upgrade the offensive line, and the Bengals would shed $6.4 million in cap space. Then when it comes to Jonathan Jones, this is what BR had to say. Jonathan Jones is 30 years old, and the Patriots are in rebuild mode. They might be willing to part with the veteran if it gives them an extra pick in the draft and saves them some money. And then talking about trading up potentially in this year's NFL draft, Bleacher Report says then there's the idea of trading for an early draft pick that could either be used to take one of the top tackle prospects in the draft or a quarterback to compete with Kenny Pickett. So first, I want to address Ted Karras, the center from the Cincinnati Bengals here. He's the 15th overall center, according to Pro Football Focus, in terms of their grading system in 2023. If you trade for him, you're going to be on the hook for just over $6 million, so he is affordable. And I do think that he's a good fit for Arthur Smith's offense. I won't say he's the best athlete in the world, but he's a good enough athlete to play in this system. I think there might be some better, more athletic options out there in free agency and the draft. But if they ended up trading like a 5th-round pick or something like that for Ted Karras, I definitely would not be crying about it. Then we get to Jonathan Jones here, and this is one really does intrigue me because his Pro Football Focus grade was almost top 20 in the National Football League. He's played a ton of press coverage throughout his career. His cap hit would be about $9 million, but you look at the free agency market right now, and that would be a really good price compared to guys like L'Jarius Sneed and Jalen Johnson. And I think he's a great fit for the Steelers defense because you look at Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin, they want to play a lot of press coverage. And Joey Porter Jr. already excels at that, but the other side needs to be accounted for there, and I think Jonathan Jones would be a really, really good fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers as their CB2 moving forward. And I do like both of these trade targets for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, would I maybe rather go out and get a center in free agency or the draft? Yeah, but like I said, I'm not going to cry about it if the Steelers end up trading a day 3 draft pick for a starting center like Ted Karras. Now, when it comes to trading up or trading down in this year's NFL draft, I think that's an interesting discussion. I don't think they're going to be trading up. Okay, and the reason for that is I don't think they're going to try and draft a quarterback early this year. I think they're probably either going to go get a veteran like Justin Fields or Russell Wilson, or they're going to stick with Kenny Pickett as their starter, most likely sticking with Pickett. So with that being said, I don't think they're trading up for a tackle. And then when it comes to trading down, I think it's an interesting discussion, especially if they want to go get a center. But let me know down there in the comments section, would you rather trade up or trade down in round 1 of the 2024 NFL draft? Type U if you would trade up, or type D if you would trade down. Right now we get to the ESPN story here where they have the Pittsburgh Steelers taking Jordan Travis, a quarterback out of Florida State, in the 3rd round. And this, of course, comes from Brooke Pryor, the Steelers reporter there at ESPN, and this is what she has to say about this pick. At his end-of-season news conference, Coach Mike Tomlin said Kenny Pickett will resume his status as the team's starting quarterback in 2024, but will have competition. Travis's season ended prematurely with a left lower leg injury that will likely hamper him in the pre-draft evaluation period, but taking a swing on him could have a big upside for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Travis is undersized, but his mobility, playmaking ability, and pocket presence make him an intriguing prospect in a league that increasingly values quarterbacks with versatile skill sets to run the offense. And they have the Steelers taking Travis in the third round at number 84 overall. And to me, this is too rich for a guy like Travis, because he is undersized. I don't think he's a particularly good mental processor. Don't think he's a particularly good decision maker. And, although he can get outside the pocket, he has a decent feel for the pocket. I still think he has a long way to go. And then you add the injury on top of that, and I just think third round is going to be way too high for him. Now, if they drafted him in the fifth round, things change for me. I think that's a good lottery ticket to spend because, like Brooks says, he's a really talented athlete. But I'm not going to spend a third-round draft pick, which could be used on getting a potential starter year one, on a guy that is definitely not going to start year one, and you're kind of just hoping is going to develop in the long run. So for me, I do think drafting Travis that high is a bit too high and a bit too rich for my blood. Now, what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Would you take Jordan Travis from Florida State in round 3, or do you agree with me and think that's a bit too rich? Type yes if you would take him, or type no if you wouldn't. Here's a shout out to some of the people that followed me on Twitter this week. So shout out to Brock, Ryan, Seth, Mr. Hercules 007, and Brydens. If you guys want a shout out on a future edition of Steelers Talk, make sure you give me a follow at Jack_Sperry. And of course, make sure you click that subscribe button to never miss any of our Steelers news and rumors coverage throughout the 2024 offseason. All right, 1 down, 3 to go, Mr. Coop. How long was that segment, by the way? Did we get up to 18?
No, not quite.
Not quite?
No. Like 14.
We covered a lot of ground there.
A lot of ground.
We talked about Michael Thomas. We talked about some trade assets, some trade targets, and then Jordan Travis. So what were your thoughts on that, on everything discussed in that video?
Especially the Jordan Travis thing. Why would I take him in the third round after he broke his leg in December? Or November, basically.
Especially that high.
Yeah, he's not going to be ready, and I'm not using a day 2 pick on him. There's no way.
I mean, I think that he's a round 5, round 6 kind of guy, because it'd be one thing if he was a pocket quarterback and broke his leg, but he's an athletic quarterback that relies on his legs, and he just broke his leg. Like, it was a nasty injury in just December. Like, a third-round pick, Brooke?
No way.
I mean, come on now. Can we use our brain a little bit here? Like, there's just no way you take Jordan Travis in round 3.
I would take Bo Nix at 84.
Maybe. Can we stop it with the Bo Nix? Can we stop it with the Bo Nix? All right. I like Bo Nix more than some of the other people in this office, but not for the Steelers. Just no. All right.
He's gone.
If you're gonna stick with a young quarterback, stick with Kenny Pickett. Okay, or go get Justin Fields, but don't go get Bo Nix, all right? Just don't do that.
I'm in on Justin Fields.
So I'm going to give some shout-outs here. What free agent do you guys want to be the next big signing for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Do you want Michael Thomas? Do you want Tyler Boyd? Do you want L'Jarius Sneed? Let me know. And also, don't forget, guys, make sure you get your questions, your comments, your ideas down there in the comments section for our mailbag here. And coming up in about, 30 minutes or so?
Hopefully sooner.
Maybe sooner. Because coming up here, we don't have trade targets is not up next.
Offensive targets.
Offensive targets is up next for the Pittsburgh Steelers, all right? So, of course, Arthur Smith just hired as the offensive coordinator for the Black and Gold. Going to be going over some of the targets that they could be going after here on offense for this offseason. Definitely one of the best videos we've done this offseason so far, and we've had some pretty darn good videos, man. So I can't wait to get into this one. Make sure you guys use hashtag Steelers or Super Chat to make sure you get your question on today's Steelers Talk mailbag. We got a $2 Super Chat here from Soapy Nugget, and he says, would you take Joe Milton on day 3? And you know what, Soapy Nugget? I will answer that question on today's mailbag. Jeffrey Coop is shaking his head no. Fun fact, by the way, Browns Report host Matthew Peterson went to Tennessee. So that might be influencing his decision a little bit, all right?
I would rather have Jordan Travis in round 3 than Bo Nix, or than freaking Joe Milton. Ever! Joe Milton, no. You do not want that guy as your starting quarterback.
Okay, all right.
You heard it.
All right, so let's get into this next segment coming at you right now. The updated offensive targets for your Pittsburgh Steelers. Now that Arthur Smith is the next offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers, What players could you expect the Steelers to go out and target in free agency or via draft? Or via trade for that matter, that would fit in this offense? Well, today I'm going to answer that question on today's edition of Steelers Talk. But before we get into that, make sure you guys stay tuned for my updated quarterback targets list now that I know Arthur Smith will be the OC here in Pittsburgh for 2024. And get the show started right now for me down there in the comments section. Who will start the most games at quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2024? Will it be Russell Wilson? Will it be Mason Rudolph? Will it be Kenny Pickett? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section, and I'll give you my answer to this at the end of today's show. But first, let's start with this scenario right here, because I was thinking about this yesterday after our live show. I thought this was a pretty darn good idea. What if the Pittsburgh Steelers decided to get the old band back together from the Tennessee Titans back in 2020 when that team was the number 1 seed in the AFC with, of course, Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator, led by guys like A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and Ryan Tannehill, all of which could be gettable for the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. Let's start with A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry, because in 2020, it was just simply phenomenal what these two guys were able to do. Now, keep in mind, Brown only played in 14 games. Henry played the entire schedule, and Henry was the offensive player of the year. Brown was still dominant. 15.4 yards per catch is absolutely astronomical. 11 touchdowns in 14 games played. But then you look at Derrick Henry, over 2,000 yards rushing, over 120 yards per game rushing. 5.4 yards per attempt that led the league that led the NFL back in 2020, and 17 touchdowns. And you look at those PFF grades down there at the bottom, 90.4 and 91.8. That's both elite production from these two guys. Now, obviously, years have passed a little bit, especially for our friend Derrick Henry, King Henry himself, who's going to be 30 years old for the 2024 NFL season. But listen, this guy is a freak of nature. He always has been, and you can see that last year in his age 29 season, where he was still the 3rd highest ranked running back in the National Football League, despite running behind one of the worst offensive lines in the league back in 2023. His projected contract, according to Pro Football Focus right now, is 2 years, $20 million, total $10 million per season, which is actually kind of a bargain given what he's been paid before. So the master plan here, how the Steelers can put this all together, is if they trade Diontae Johnson and Najee Harris, however they end up doing that, they sign Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill in NFL free agency, and then they find some way to convince the Philadelphia Eagles to trade them A.J. Brown for maybe in exchange for Diontae Johnson, maybe something like that. Let me know down there in the comment section what you guys think. Would you get Arthur Smith's crew back together? Type yes or type no if you had the opportunity to put these 3 guys on the Steelers roster for 2024. Would you take it? Yes or no for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break at some point during this video. When that happens, take advantage of that time, but give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. All right, guys, so let's talk a little bit of shop here when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers and when it comes to specifically the wide receiver position, because I do not think that Diontae Johnson is a particularly good fit for Arthur Smith's offense. Now, what Arthur likes to do is he likes to have most of the time 2 tight ends on the field or 2 running backs, which means you usually only have 2 wide receivers on the field, and Arthur likes to have 2 bigger receivers that can block. And Diontae Johnson just doesn't really do that all too well. He's a bit of a smaller guy. He's 5'10", and he just doesn't really fit this offense. And if you trade him, you can save $10 million in cap space for the 2024 season. So let's say they trade him. What kind of guys could they end up getting in free agency? Well, you look at the top free agents in this year's draft class, I could see any one of these 5 guys being a great fit for this offense as another option for Kenny Pickett along with George Pickens in 2024. T. Higgins is going to be the biggest name on the market. Of course, you got Michael Pittman Jr. Maybe he has a little bit of a vendetta against the Steelers after the way DeMonte KZ hit him this past year, but who knows? Maybe he could be a Steeler. Mike Evans, somebody with a ton of great production throughout his career. Calvin Ridley, another bigger receiver that's a good blocker. And then Tyler Boyd, the Pittsburgh native, the former Pitt Panther. Good size, good versatility, can play in the slot, can play outside, and he's a good run blocker. He always has been. He plays with really good effort. Would really love to see Tyler Boyd in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform. Okay, so still to come here, my updated QB targets list for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But we're going to go to the center position here, where I do think that Connor Williams is the number one guy on this year's market. He was the number one graded center in the National Football League this past year. And you can get him, according to Pro Football Focus, for a 1-year, $6 million contract. I think that's an excellent, excellent deal, and that's probably what I would go with if I was the Pittsburgh Steelers. But some other good names. Andre James had a breakout season with the Raiders this past year, 3 years, $9 million per season. Aaron Brewer is definitely a name to be watching out for. He's a former player for Arthur Smith, and Arthur Smith loves him some Aaron Brewer, so watch out for that name. 3 years, $6.7 million per season. Coleman Shelton, another guy that's played in a wide zone system before, and same thing with Evan Brown there in Seattle that's run this outside zone type of system in his career. Then you shift to offensive tackle, another need for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've already gone over these names before. Tyron Smith and Trent Brown are really the names to be watching out for. Those are the two biggest names. For me, I would love to get Trent Brown because he's one of the top 10 offensive tackles in football, and according to Pro Football Focus, you can get him for just $7.5 million per season. Now, do me a favor, guys, right now, like the video if you are a real one. Listen, not everybody's going to like this video, but the ones that do, those are the real ones. So if you want to distinguish yourself from the rest of the people that watch this video and you want to show your support, make sure you click that thumbs up icon, and I'd really appreciate it. Then we get to the tight end position here, where we got Noah Fant, who I think would be a perfect fit for Arthur Smith's offense. He's big. He's a great blocker, but he's also a good receiver. And if you can get him for 3 years, $9 million per season, that's going to be something I think Omar Khan takes a look at. You got Dalton Schultz, you got Hunter Henry, and Gerald Everett, all guys that can both block and receive and would be good fits in Arthur Smith's system, because Arthur Smith likes to have 2 tight ends on the field at a given time, and I definitely think that all those guys would be good fits. Now, when it comes to Pat Freiermuth, I do think that he's probably going to be here next year, so maybe they don't go out and get a tight end this year, especially with Darnell Washington still on the roster. But who knows, if they trade Pat Freiermuth, look for them to at least sign one of these guys to fill out the tight end room. Now, before I fill out the rest of my targets today, go ahead and check out our friends at Fanatics here by going to chatsports.com/TJ and get yourself one of these awesome TJ Watt t-shirts in your closet today, man. These things are absolutely fantastic. He's got that signature pose after he gets the sack. If you believe TJ Watt deserves to be the Defensive Player of the Year for the 2023 season, now is the time to get an awesome t-shirt at a great price. They have their off-season sales going on right now on the Fanatics website. So go to chatsports.com/TJ to get an awesome TJ Watt t-shirt in your closet today. All right, now we have reached it here. The quarterback targets list after Arthur Smith has been hired as the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So now I'm going to break this up into 2 lists. First, I'm going to go over my personal list, what I would do. Then I'll go over the more realistic version of what I think the Steelers are going to have as their list. So let's start with my list here. I got Justin Fields, number 1. I think that this is a super QB-friendly system, which would make the most out of his passing talents. And then I also think his ability to run would really be accentuated in this system. I think he'd be a perfect fit for Arthur Smith in this offense. And if the Steelers can find some way to get him on their roster, I would highly suggest they end up doing so. Russell Wilson is another guy to consider, in my opinion, somebody that was top 10 in passer rating just last year. The narrative on him is that he stinks and that he's cooked. Not so much. He actually had a pretty decent season last year, and you could get him on the vet minimum because of a clause in his contract that would force Denver to pay the rest of his contract for 2024 if he signs for the vet minimum. And then the rest of the kind of backups that I would bring in, Jacoby Brissett would be my number 1 option. Played really well when he had the opportunity to play in 2023. Really like his skill set. And then Ryan Tannehill, of course, used to play in this Arthur Smith offense. I'd have him just behind Brissett. And then Gardner Minshew at number 5, just because he's a decent backup. But now the realistic quarterback targets for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I don't think they're going to try and get Justin Fields, and I don't think they're going to try to get Russell Wilson. I think they're going to try and give Kenny Pickett one more shot to be their starting quarterback. So I'd say these are the 5 most likely guys for the Pittsburgh Steelers to sign in 2024. And the top 2 guys are definitely the top 2 guys. Mason Rudolph, Ryan Tannehill. I really believe it's going to be one of those guys. Ryan has definitely fallen off a cliff since Arthur Smith left. So it makes sense that he'll want to come to Pittsburgh to try and revitalize his career. And then with Mason Rudolph, he's told the media that the Steelers have already told him that they want him back, all these different things. And if he can't find an opportunity, I could certainly see him coming back in 2024. But then Gardner Minshew, Jacoby Brissett, and Tyrod Taylor are also guys to consider, very good backups. And if you're looking for somebody that can trust on the field as your starting quarterback, if Kenny Pickett stinks in 2024, I would trust any one of these 5 guys to potentially be a spot starter for this team next season. Now, earlier I asked you guys, who will start the most games for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the quarterback position in 2024? And I told you at the end of today's show I was going to answer this question. My prediction here is I actually think it's going to be Mason Rudolph, all right? So I think that Mason's going to come back. It looks like the Steelers want to bring him back. I don't think he's going to get any opportunities to start elsewhere, okay? So I'm definitely looking at him signing back with the Steelers. And then with Kenny Pickett, I think he's not going to be the starter again by like week 6, because although this offense gives him the best shot to succeed, based on what I've seen on his film, I do not have confidence in him whatsoever. So it wouldn't really surprise me here if Mason Rudolph takes over the starting job by mid-season and ends up starting the most games for this team in 2023. And who knows, maybe even lead them to the playoffs once again next season. Now, who will be the number 2 quarterback in Pittsburgh in 2024? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Will it be Mason Rudolph, type MR, or do you think it'll be Ryan Tannehill, Arthur Smith's former number 1 quarterback there in Tennessee, type RT, if you think Tannehill swoops in and takes the job from Rudolph? If you guys want a shout out on a future edition of Steelers Talk, all you have to do is give me a follow on my Twitter at Jack_Sperry. So here's today's shout outs. D3 and some gibberish there. K. Henry, Anthony S., and Go Caps. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. Again, at Jack_Sperry on Twitter if you want a shout out on a future edition of Steelers Talk. And make sure you guys click that subscribe button for our extensive Steelers offseason coverage all throughout the next couple of months. All right.
Rudy. Rudy is your prediction.
I don't want it to be Rudy because I've laid out on the show that I think he's not good enough to win a Super Bowl as a starter, but I think that he's too beloved by the fans to bring him back as a backup, because the second Kenny Pickett throws an interception or makes a bad throw, like the fans at Acrisure Stadium are going to be on Rudy, 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 and it's just not good for Kenny Pickett's well-being if he has his home stadium chanting for his backup to play. It's just not going to work out for him. And I know that the Steelers keep saying, oh, like Mason showed what this offense is capable of with good quarterback play. And they're right about that. But that doesn't mean you have to bring him back as your backup next year. Okay? It just doesn't. Now, Ryan Tannehill is a guy where if you bring him in, you can have Kenny Pickett as your bona fide starter. And then if he stinks, Ryan Tannehill has shown in his career that he has had success in this system. He has shown that he can make the anticipation throws. He has shown that he can make the simple reads in this offense. Like, he's been a good quarterback in this scheme before, and he's not that much older at this point. So, if I'd have to choose between the two, I'm taking Ryan Tannehill. I appreciate everything that Mason Rudolph has done. I think that he's a decent spot starter in this league, a good backup. But, he's not good enough to be a starter, and he's too beloved to be a backup here in Pittsburgh, in my opinion. Ryan Tannehill doesn't really have – you could definitely say he's not good enough to win a Super Bowl, but, at this point, man, I think that Ryan Tannehill is the better fit for that second quarterback spot. But I have a feeling they're going to pick Mason Rudolph, and he's going to be the starting quarterback for the second half of the season next year. That's my prediction. That's what I think is going to happen. $2 super chat from Hot Rod 24. Says, Coop Sperry, what's your Super Bowl prediction? Guess what, Hot Rod will answer this on I'll answer it on the mailbag. Do you want to give your prediction right now, Coop?
I refuse to bet against Patrick Mahomes ever again until he proves me wrong. So I'm going to pick the Chiefs.
Just so you guys know, Coop and I, we're going to be doing the Super Bowl live stream here at Chat Sports.
We'll be live.
So we'll be live on Chat Sports, on the main Chat Sports YouTube channel.
Right there.
Covering the Super Bowl. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button so you can watch us in our live watch party, our last one of the year.
We'll be live.
It'll be the last one of the year. It'll be for the Super Bowl on Chat Sports Main. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button for Chat Sports Main to watch us during Super Bowl Sunday. Coop, can you do me a real quick favor? Can you grab my water that's on my desk?
What's the magic word?
Please. I'm really thirsty. I've been talking a lot on today's show.
Would you say you're parched?
I am very parched. If you guys can't tell, I've been talking a lot these first 2 segments, all right? So make sure you guys get your questions. God, goodness gracious, man. All right, so make sure you guys get your questions in. Hashtag Steelers or Super Chat. Get your question into the live chat. We'll be answering your questions here in about 2-3 minutes after I get a little bit of a drink here. And if you have questions about Arthur Smith, about the NFL draft, about NFL free agency, about Steelers trade rumors, whatever the case may be, let me know down there in the live chat what you guys want to know, and then I'll answer your guys' questions. Oh, my goodness. My mouth is extremely dry right now. You guys have no idea. And Coop's got my water. And he's toying with me here. All right. All right. I needed that. All right. Do we have enough questions? I'm guessing we do.
I'm pretty sure we do. I'll double check, but.
All right. Coop's going to double check here.
Yeah, we're good.
I see Frank Campbell in here. I see Offsides Edits. I see Titus Kitchen. I see David Bowers. I see David Duke.
Whoa.
Uh-oh. I see Hot Rod 24. I see Parker Gamer. Oh! A $10 Super Chat from Ronnie Everett. Ronnie Everett. $10 Super Chat means a shot for me and Coop. Cheers to you, Ronnie. Let's go.
Shout out to Ronnie.
Cheers.
Oh, Jesus.
That was a lot. That was way too much for a shot. God damn. Woo!
Oh, I put too much liquid in there.
Again, $20 Super Chats, and we got slaps today. Don't have any tortillas in the studio, so we got these paper plates. But these things hurt more.
They hurt more.
Because I don't know what it is. I think it's because it's like a harder surface.
It's the aerodynamic.
Aerodynamics, whatever Coop says. All right, let's get in. Wait, did we make the check?
Yeah,
we got enough? Okay. Let's get into the Steelers Talk mailbag for this week. Coming at you right now. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and today I'm answering your questions on the black and gold. On today's Steelers Talk live mailbag, we are filming this on Wednesday during the Steelers Talk live show. And if you want to get your questions on these mailbags every single week, you can join Coop and I at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our Steelers Talk live shows. And you can get your questions submitted to have your voice heard right here on the channel. So do me a favor, click that subscribe button right now to join the most interactive Steelers YouTube community right here on the platform. And with that, I'll pause and open it up for questions, starting with Hot Rod 24. He says, Coop Sperry, what's your Super Bowl prediction? We kind of addressed this earlier in the live show. Coop said he's taking the Kansas City Chiefs. For me, I got to take the Chiefs too, man. I mean, on paper, the 49ers should probably win this football game. They got more talent, especially at the wide receiver position. They got a really good defense. But you know what? Kansas City's defense, pretty darn good themselves. Chris Jones is going to be going after Brock Purdy, who's playing in his first ever Super Bowl. And then you got Patrick Mahomes, who it seems like Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce have been enough for him in terms of weapons this postseason run. And at the end of the day, man, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback that I have ever seen play the game of football. So for me, I'm going to go with Kansas City to win their second straight Super Bowl, the first time since the early 2000s for a team to repeat as champions in the National Football League. Then we got one from Ben Roethlisberger. He says, Kenny Pickett looked much improved the 1.5 games he played without Canada. I think he definitely deserves a chance with an offensive coordinator, and I think he will thrive next year. What do you think? So what I'll say about Kenny Pickett's 1.5 games without Matt Canada, the one game that he had completely completed was the game was the game against the Bengals, and they had the 31st ranked defense in the National Football League. And then Mason Rudolph played the Bengals a couple weeks later and played better than Pickett did. So I mean, I can't say that I'm too impressed with his performance in that game, especially because the The offense only scored 16 points that game. Yes, they put up over 300 yards of offense, whatever, but they didn't get the ball in the end zone, and that's Kenny Pickett's biggest flaw to this point in his career, is that he can't get the ball in the end zone when they're in the red zone. And he just can't do it. The only way the Steelers score is if they run the football, it seems like. So, I mean, I just don't have the confidence in Kenny Pickett at this point. I think you can make an argument that he deserves another shot. I think you can make an argument Arthur Smith's offense fits his skill set nicely, but call me skeptical that he's going to be able to succeed in anyone's offense moving forward, but Arthur Smith's offense does give him the best shot. Then we got a $69 super chat from Kurgan Cold, one of our Black Diamonds. Doesn't submit a question, but we appreciate you, Kurgan. Thank you so much for that $69 super chat. Very nice. Everybody spam nice down there in the comments section for one of our Black Diamonds, Kurgan Cold. Thank you so much, my friend. A real one of the show. Steelers Talk legend coming in with that $69 super chat. Then we get to, I'll tell you what, man. And he says, what position, if any, do you think the Steelers will splurge on in free agency this year? This is actually a really good question. I think the answer is either going to be two things. Number one, wide receiver. Okay, if they want to trade Deontay Johnson because he's not a fit, you can save $10 million in cap space. And you add that to all the cuts and all the extensions and all the restructures, you're going to save quite a bit of money to maybe go get a T. Higgins or a Michael Pittman Jr. or a Mike Evans even, or Tyler Boyd if you want to save some money. I definitely think the Steelers are going to make at least one marquee signing in free agency at the wide receiver position. And if it's not wide receiver, I would say probably a cornerback, all right? Like L'Jarius Sneed, if Jalen Johnson is made available. I think those are two positions that are considered premium positions, and that's where you want to spend your money if you're an NFL franchise. Now, you be the GM. Would you rather sign or draft a cornerback, not quarterback? Because quarterback. Would you rather sign or draft a quarterback? Type S for sign or type D for draft. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section for today's pin comment. At some point during this video, YouTube's going to throw you an ad break. When that happens, take advantage of that time by letting me know if you'd rather sign or draft a new quarterback in 2024. Then we got one from Steve Young here. He says there was a lot of buzz earlier around Tyler Boyd wanting to come to Pittsburgh. Could this still happen, and how would he fit in Arthur Smith's offense? So good question, Steve. And I think that it's still very viable. I think that he's affordable because he's only been a number 3 receiver in this league, even though I think he's got the talent to be a number 2. He's a good run blocker, which is exactly what Arthur Smith loves. And then another thing that I love about him is that he's got a great motor. He's always giving 100% effort. He's a great run blocker. And then number 3, he can play outside and inside, and that versatility is extremely valuable to me. I think Tyler Boyd would be a great fit, and he might still be my number 1 free agency target for the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. Then we got Nevia Benson. He says, do you still think we get Justin Fields? I don't think that they're going to do it. Would I want them to do it? Hell yeah. I mean, I think that he's a great runner of the football, and then you match that with a super quarterback-friendly offense like Arthur Smith brings to the table. It's going to make the most out of his passing ability. He's got a great arm, good playmaking ability, and of course, he's got that elite rushing ability that nobody else at the position has. Not even Lamar Jackson, in my opinion, because Justin Fields, he can take ones to the house 60, 70 yards plus. Lamar Jackson doesn't have the long-term speed to be able to do that. Justin Fields does, which is a huge weapon at his disposal. And then at his size, I mean, he's a freaking unicorn, man. He really is. If you have the opportunity to get him, he's cheaper than Kenny Pickett in terms of cap space next year because you wouldn't be on the hook for the signing bonus that he signed with Chicago. So, I mean, if I'm Mike Tomlin, if I'm Omar Khan, and I have an opportunity to get Justin Fields, I am pulling that trigger because I think it would be the best thing for this organization. Now, before we get into the rest of this week's questions, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. If you want to make this year's Super Bowl viewing experience even more interesting for yourself, you can get started with our sponsor, Prize Picks, today. Prize Picks is a skill-based, real money, daily fantasy sports game. And if you're wondering how something like this works, here's how you play. You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll go for more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can even win up to 25 times your money on any entry. And because I'm an optimist here, I'm going to take the more on Christian McCaffrey rush yards and then the more on receiving yards for both tight ends here, Travis Kelce and George Kittle. You can get your picks in now for Super Bowl 58 between the 49ers and Chiefs by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. With Prize Picks, it takes less than 60 seconds to make your picks. To get started right now, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. EV says Steelers, Pittsburgh should go after Chris Jones. No. Way too expensive, first of all. Steelers will not be able to afford him and other players, and unfortunately, I'll just say this, I don't think the Steelers need him. You got Larry Ogunjobi. You've got Keanu Benton, who's starting to bud into a star in this league, in my opinion. You still got Cam Hayward coming back next year. Now, if Captain Cam retired, maybe you think about going and getting Chris Jones. Right now, I think the interior of the defensive line is pretty darn solid. All right, I don't think you need Chris Jones, and especially at his price tag, which is going to be astronomical, I don't think it makes much sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers to consider Chris Jones at this juncture. Then we got one from Sheldon Bennett. It says, what do you think of Jackson Powers-Johnson and Amarius and Talise Fuaga, talking about him, being drafted by the Steelers? So listen, I would be fine with any of these guys being drafted by the Steelers. Talise Fuaga has been balling out at the Senior Bowl this week. I mean, he is absolutely just pancaking people. And then you got Amarius Mims, another guy that can pancake people, very similar to Broderick Jones in terms of his overall build. And then Jackson Powers-Johnson is arguably the most impressive player at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama this week. He's been incredible. And he's got the athleticism. He's got the strength. He's got the technique that you need from your starting center in a wide zone offense like Arthur Smith is bringing to Pittsburgh. And honestly, I think Jackson Powers-Johnson is 100% worth a first-round pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But let me know what you guys think. Down there in the comments section, would you draft Jackson Powers-Johnson in round 1? Yes or no? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Then we got one from W. Repulse here, and he says, if A.J. Brown isn't available for trade, should the Steelers consider still trading DJ for a late first and sign Mike Evans to pair with Pickens? 100%! Yes! If you can get a first-round pick for Deontay Johnson, who has 1 year left on his contract and is not a good fit for this new system, yes, you take that and you draft another really good receiver with that pick. And then, yeah, with that extra $10 million in cap space, I would go out and get Mike Evans. I would go out and get a Michael Pittman Jr. I would go out and get a T. Higgins. I mean, how much would Bengals fans hate that if he was in a Steelers uniform? Oh, my goodness. I would love that. Yes, absolutely, W. Repulse. Even if you can't get A.J. Brown, I would still trade Deontay Johnson. Then we got one from Dominic here. Says, who is your most interesting signing that you would make if you were the manager of the Steelers this offseason? Interesting. I'll go with Russell Wilson. I'll go with Russell Wilson because this is why it's interesting. Okay? He has a clause in his contract with the Denver Broncos which would allow him to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers on the vet minimum, all right? $1.6 million and change. That's it. That's all the Steelers would have to pay. And the Broncos would still have to pay Russ almost $34 million in 2024. So Russ gets paid, and the Steelers save cap space on a guy that was top 10 in passer rating just last year. So I know it's not the most popular idea among Steelers fans right now, but I think that's because they don't understand that they can get Russell Wilson on the vet minimum. And if you can do that, that opens up so many more opportunities in free agency, via draft, even via trade. I mean, it just opens up so many great opportunities. And then Russell Wilson, somebody with his record in the playoffs, 4 fourth-quarter comebacks, 4 game-winning drives in the postseason. He's top 10 all-time in both of those categories in National Football League history. He's clutch in the playoffs. He's still top 10 in passer rating just last year. And you can get him for the vet minimum? That's the signing that I would make if I was Omar Khan. But pick a starter for me down there in the comments section. Would you go with Russell Wilson? Type RW. Would you go with Justin Fields? Type JF. Are you cool with sticking with Kenny Pickett? Type KP. Or if you want to go with somebody else, type O. And then also let me know who would you rather start for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2024. Then we got one from Offsides Edits. I love that profile picture, by the way. He says, do you think we can make Calvin Austin fit our scheme? So the answer to that question is yes, but not as a number 2 receiver, because usually Arthur Smith likes to have 2 receivers on the field, and he likes both of them to be big, really good run blockers, and both really good receivers in their own right? So Calvin Austin III does not fit that description. However, once they go to their 3-receiver, 4-receiver sets, Calvin Austin III becomes a valuable piece. Okay, somebody that's still a pretty decent route runner. He can take the top off of a defense, and then, oh yeah, he's still a really, really good punt return man. So Calvin Austin III is going to stick around. He's probably not going to play on early downs for the Pittsburgh Steelers this upcoming year, but he's still going to have a very valuable and very important role on this team. So don't worry about Calvin Austin III. And then we got one from Kevin the Elder God. And he says, we're hoping to fetch a first for DJ, but realistically, I don't think it would be logical. What you believe is more realistic return, like mid-second rounder. Yeah, so Kevin's right. All right, like I said, would I take a first-round pick for Diontae Johnson? Hell yes. But do I think we're going to get one? No. Okay, we're going to get like a second-round pick, maybe an early third-round pick for Diontae Johnson. All right, that's just the way it is. Now, I do think you could probably get a second for him, and that's what I think the bar should be for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're not getting rid of him unless it's a second-round pick, and I think that they'll get someone to bite on that. But I think Kevin's absolutely right here. It's probably not going to be a first-rounder, so if you're hoping it's going to be a first, I wouldn't hold my breath if I'm going to expect anything here. I think it's going to be a second-round pick in exchange for Diontae Johnson. All right, that'll be it for today's mailbag, man. But you know what? If you want a shout-out on a future edition of Steelers Talk, all you have to do is go to Twitter and give me a follow at Jack_Sperry. I'm putting a bunch of Steelers stuff on there every single day for you guys to enjoy. I got NFL Draft All 22 film breakdowns on there as well. Bunch of great stuff, and you get a shout-out on the show. So shout-out to Libster88, Desiree, Thomas, a bunch of gibberish, and Paul Mack. Thank you guys so much, and make sure you click that subscribe button. If you want to get your question on next week's Steelers Talk mailbag, make sure you tune in 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single Wednesday for the Steelers Talk live show, and join the most interactive Steelers community right here on the YouTube platform. All right, I need another freaking drink here, Coop.
Need another? Are you still parched again?
I mean, it's like straight up ash. It's just.
I'm dead.
It's cloudy up in this mouth over here.
Also, how about Kurgan just popping in with the 69?
Kurgan cold. I was worried we weren't going to see him, my man, for this entire offseason.
He said he's traveling back to the U.S., so he'll catch up with us later. He also just asked a question. He said, do you think Darnell Washington will blossom into a starter?
Maybe. I think right now my prediction is their plan is going to be to roll with Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington as their tight ends next year. And because Arthur Smith loves to run 2 tight end sets so much, Darnell is going to be pretty much a starter for this team next year. Now, the question is he going to develop as a receiver? And that really is going to be the big question for him. Because I already think he's a dominating run blocker who makes some mistakes here and there, but I really do believe that he's got, for sure, the physical ability to be a great blocking tight end. Now, will he become a good receiver? I mean, it was pretty rough in 2023. I'm not going to lie, folks. It was not good.
And then the second part of his question was, he said also, trade Muth?
I mean, the thing with Muth is that he's not a great blocker, right? And this offense really requires everybody, wide receivers, tight ends, offensive linemen, running backs even, to be able to block. And Pat Freiermuth was, at best, an average run blocker for the Pittsburgh Steelers last year.
So they're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets, though, right?
Lots of 2 tight ends. And, listen.
And Connor Hayward's probably fullback?
I would say so, yeah. And I like that move, by the way. I think Connor Hayward's going to be great at that spot. But the thing with Pat Freiermuth, and people talk about how Arthur Smith didn't use Kyle Pitts the right way. Kyle Pitts was not a fit for his offense. Okay, Kyle Pitts is more of like a big slot receiver, almost like a more jacked up version of Michael Thomas. All right, he's not somebody that's like a Noah Fant that's going to be an inline blocker and just dominate somebody. All right, that's what they asked him to do, and he sucked at it because he's just not that kind of guy. He's more of a receiving tight end, and in this system, you need to be both a good blocker and at least a decent receiver. And, I mean, Kyle Pitts stinks at blocking. So it's like, I don't know, man. there's some credence to that argument, but also not using Bijan Robinson enough, that's a bunch of bullshit.
And Pitts.
Well, I know, but like the argument that not using Bijan Robinson enough is completely false. It's just a narrative. Bijan Robinson had 4 less touches per game than Christian McCaffrey, and he led the whole damn league. All right? I don't want to hear that Bijan Robinson didn't touch the ball enough because he did.
The first half of the season, he did not. The second half of the season, they started using him much more.
And then for the entirety of the season, he had 4 less touches per game than the guy that led the entire National Football League. So I don't want to hear that Arthur Smith didn't get the ball to Bijan Robinson because he fucking did. So I don't want to hear that argument at all. Kyle Pitts, you got maybe an argument, but he just wasn't a fit for his system.
You don't want to hear it?
And I'm worried that Pat Freiermuth is going to be kind of the same thing as Kyle Pitts because he's like a true...
They're very similar.
Because he's a true receiving tight end in a system that requires you to do both. So if he's not a good fit, I think he's probably gone by the trade deadline next year. All right, so now Super Chat menu here. We still got one more segment to get to here. But any Super Chat, you're going to get a shout-out. $10, we're going to take shots. $20, we don't have tortillas today, but we got paper plates, which hurt worse, unfortunately, much more sturdy.
The tortillas are not sturdy.
They're
floppy.
The tortillas are not sturdy at all. These things are sturdy, so these things are actually worse. But at the end of the day, guys, we're going to do all the tortillas at the plate slaps, I should say, at the end of today's show. So we already have one. If you want me to slap Coop, send in another one.
Let's go.
All right, let's get it going.
We don't have any more tortillas, unfortunately, so Sperry would have to eat a paper plate.
I think that's what he wants me to do.
I'm in.
I tell you what, Kurgan, I know that you're one of our biggest super chatters here. I don't think that there's a big enough super chat that you could send in for me to eat a paper plate.
Well, I don't think you physically could.
If I did, I'd probably be super sick.
You'd go to the hospital.
We might not have any more Steelers Talk live shows if I ate this paper plate.
Cassie, if you're watching, you might need to take Jack to the hospital. Don't make sure you're hydrated for this segment.
You guys are crazy, man.
I like you, but you're crazy.
Do we have the right Fanatics stuff in there right now?
TJ?
No, I want the throwback one in there now.
Oh, I also have that one too.
Okay, cool. All right, let's get into this final segment here. We're going to be breaking down ESPN's perfect offseason plan.
Cassie says no paper plate eating.
Fortunately, Cassie said no, guys. So
no worries.
She's the boss, all right? She's the boss. She decides, and she said no.
All right, let's do it.
So let's get into this final segment here. ESPN's perfect offseason plan for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and my reaction coming at you right now. ESPN has released their official offseason plan for the Pittsburgh Steelers during the 2024 offseason, and today we're going to be reacting to everything the ESPN staff had to say about the Pittsburgh Steelers 2024 offseason. But before we get into this plan today, do me a favor, make sure you guys click that subscribe button because we're going to have the most extensive coverage of the Pittsburgh Steelers throughout the 2024 offseason. Breaking news coverage every time they make a signing in free agency, every time they make a trade, every time they have a draft pick. We are going to go live, or we're going to be going live with you guys, breaking news coverage, breaking down whatever the news of the day is. Then also, we're going to have extensive free agency and NFL draft coverage. So all that great stuff, scouting reports, targets, rumors, what the latest news is saying. We're going to have you covered with that as well. We got a weekly live show, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesdays. And oh yeah, it's all 100% free. So if you want to join the largest Steelers Talk community right here on YouTube, do me a favor, click that subscribe button right now. So the topics discussed in this offseason plan for ESPN, the biggest offseason priority, the under-the-radar offseason priority, 2024 NFL draft outlook, and then the big prediction for the 2024 offseason. So make sure you guys stick around for that big prediction. But first, let's start with the offseason priority here, or the biggest one according to ESPN, which is to decide on a quarterback for the future for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this is what they had to say about this supposed biggest offseason priority. The Steelers thought they were drafting their next franchise quarterback when they selected Kenny Pickett with the 20th overall pick in 2022, but Pickett hasn't lived up to his first-round status in 24 games as the Steelers starter, with 13 touchdown passes and 13 interceptions. With Pickett effectively benched for longtime backup Mason Rudolph, it's fair to speculate on Pickett's future, even if coach Mike Tomlin and Pickett hasn't gone there yet. The Steelers are traditionally patient organization, and the impending hiring of a new offensive coordinator, now we know it's Arthur Smith, could be enough leeway to keep Pickett as the number one for another season. So my prediction here when it comes to Kenny Pickett is that the Steelers moved off of Matt Canada 1 year too late because of their loyalty, and the writing was on the wall, and they didn't care. And now with Kenny Pickett, same thing. Writing is on the wall, all right? The tape is the tape with him. It's not good. And despite that, I think they're going to waste another year with him as their quarterback in 2024. I hope that I'm wrong on that. I hope that they at least give him the best possible chance at success, and Arthur Smith's offense, I think, does that. But call me skeptical that Kenny Pickett, based on what I've seen on his film these last 2 years, is going to be able to turn the corner in his third year in the league. Now, what I want them to do here is I want them to take a bigger swing at the quarterback position and go out and get a veteran that's capable of potentially winning a Super Bowl with this team. Because listen, man, Cam Hayward, his clock is ticking. He's probably got only 1 more year with this team before he retires, maybe 2. TJ Watt's not getting any younger. All right, Minkah Fitzpatrick's not getting any younger. This team is ready to win now. All right, so I want them to make a splash for a veteran quarterback that can get them to a Super Bowl potentially. I don't think Kenny Pickett is going to do that. I don't think Mason Rudolph is going to do that. I think you go out and get somebody like a Justin Fields or a Russell Wilson or somebody along those lines that could potentially do it down the road, or if not this year. And right now, I don't think the Steelers have that quarterback. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. What should the Steelers do at the quarterback position this offseason? Type KP if you want to keep Kenny Pickett as the starter, or type MO for move on for a different quarterback to try and win a Super Bowl in 2024. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. Then the under-the-radar priority here from ESPN is the secondary for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and this is what they had to say about the Steelers secondary in their article here on ESPN. The Steelers have an all-pro safety in Minkah Fitzpatrick and a rising star in cornerback Joey Porter Jr. that the organization needs to build around them in the secondary. Veteran Patrick Peterson has been solid in his transition to being a dual-threat defensive back, but he's in the final years of his career, and the Steelers need at least 1 or 2 more starter-capable cornerbacks and safety depth. So listen, man, absolutely agreed that the Steelers need to address the cornerback and safety positions this offseason. But is it really an under-the-radar threat, if we're going to use that term? I mean, I think everybody knows, everybody and their mother knows that the Steelers need to address the cornerback position this offseason. So is this really an under-the-radar type of priority? I really don't think so. If you want a true under-the-radar priority here, how about we talk about the wide receiver position for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because I think a lot of people are assuming, hey, the Steelers got 2 good wide receivers, right? George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. But when you look a bit deeper here with Arthur Smith coming in as the OC, Deontay Johnson's not a good fit for this offense, all right? This offense calls for wide receivers to be big, good run blockers, all these different things, and that's just not Deontay Johnson's game. And now that Deontay just has 1 year left on his contract, now might be the perfect time for them to part ways with Deontay here and move on as they approach this new era of offensive football in 2024. I mean, you look at his numbers right there, 5'10", 183. I mean, Arthur Smith likes guys to be at least 6 foot, 190 pounds, and able to move a blocker off the spot. Deontay Johnson's not able to do that. He's never been able to do that, and I don't really see him being able to develop that skill set this late into his NFL career. Now, still to come here on Steelers Talk, we're going to go over ESPN's 2024 NFL Draft Outlook for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then we still have that big prediction that they have for this franchise heading into the offseason. But before we get into that, if you're looking for an awesome t-shirt that kind of celebrates the heritage of this organization, how about you get a nice throwback t-shirt from our friends at Fanatics? They got some fantastic off-season deals on all of their Steelers gear, and especially if you use our link right now, chatsports.com/throwback, you can get an even better deal on this awesome Steelers throwback helmet t-shirt to add to your collection today. Make sure you go to chatsports.com/throwback to get this t-shirt in your closet today. Then we get to the NFL Draft Outlook here from the ESPN staff, and this is what they had to say about the Steelers. The Steelers tried for the 11th most interceptions with 16, but the cornerback position is one that needs more talent, even after drafting Porter in round 2 last year. The Alabama duo of Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry could be of interest. But the front office could also surprise us and look at quarterbacks, though none of the round one passers are expected to be available where Pittsburgh is picking. Now, here's the deal when it comes to picking a quarterback early in this year's NFL draft. I don't see them drafting one this early. All right, first round, once again, don't see them doing it. I think if they're going to go with a rookie quarterback, it's going to be, or not a rookie, a young quarterback, it's going to be Kenny Pickett or it's going to be Justin Fields. I don't see them making that kind of investment in the first round yet again. But, they do talk about the cornerback prospects here, and I think that's absolutely a possibility for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Here are the top 5 cornerback prospects from our friends at Pro Football Focus. And we got number 8, Cooper DeJean from Iowa. Fantastic nickel-type corner, can play outside. He's like Brian Branch on steroids when it comes to athleticism, man. That guy's going to be a really good NFL football player. Nate Wiggins might be the best true outside corner in this year's draft. Very long arms. Reminds me a lot of Devin Witherspoon from last year's class, and he went top 5. Then you got Terrion Arnold, and that guy is a physical freak, man. That guy can run. That guy can change directions extremely quickly. That's exactly what you want to see from a potential number 1 corner. Kool-Aid McKinstry, extremely physical outside cornerback. Love his game as well. And then Ennis, I'm gonna completely butcher this. Rakestraw Jr. from Mizzou is ranked number 26 on PFF's big board. I'm excited to get into his film because I haven't seen him play all that much to this point. Now discuss it for me down there in the comment section. Who is the best cornerback prospect in the 2024 NFL draft? Do you like Kool-Aid McKinstry? Do you like Cooper DeJean? Do you like Terrion Arnold and that athleticism that he has? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Who is the number 1 corner in this year's NFL draft class? So now ESPN's big prediction is that the Pittsburgh Steelers will cut Allen Robinson, slot wide receiver. Okay, so this is what ESPN had to say about this move. They will cut veteran wide receiver Allen Robinson, who was a disappointment in 2023 with 34 catches for 280 yards. That move can save the Steelers $10 million on the cap in 2024, which is $1.9 million in dead money. Now, my question about this is that does ESPN really think that this is like a surprising move for the Pittsburgh Steelers? I mean, you can save $10 million by cutting a guy that was terrible last year? I mean, are you freaking joking me? Coop, the other thumbnail there. But if you want to see my big predictions for trades this offseason, you can go check it out on the channel right now. I got 2024 trade candidates for the Pittsburgh Steelers on the channel right now. I'm going to put the link to that in the comments and description of today's video. So if you want to see some surprising potential trade scenarios for the Steelers this offseason and some truly surprising moves, you can check it out right there. And my big prediction, all right? So this is going to blow the ESPN one out of the water here. The Steelers are going to trade for superstar wide receiver A.J. Brown to pair with George Pickens this offseason, all right? This would be a complete bombshell move by GM Omar Khan. And listen, is anyone going to put it past Omar Khan to make a move like this? I certainly won't. With A.J. Brown seemingly unhappy there in Philly, with the connection that Omar Khan has with Howie Roseman there with the Eagles, I think that if A.J. Brown demands a trade, the first call Howie Roseman is going to get is Omar Khan, because A.J. Brown, if you'll remember, became a superstar in Arthur Smith's offense. If I could ask Arthur Smith if he would like to have A.J. Brown back in his offense, I mean, he wouldn't even know what to say. He'd be like, give them whatever they want. So in this case, I feel like they would want Deontay Johnson. Okay, we already talked about him not being a fit. We already talked about him potentially getting traded, so we add him to this deal. And then we give up the first-round draft pick in this year's draft, number 20 overall. Would this trade be worth it for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section, because I think this is probably the least that the Steelers could probably give up in order to get a guy like A.J. Brown on their roster. So type A if you're going to accept this trade, or type D if you're going to decline it. Let me know what your thoughts are down there in the comments section. For me, I am accepting this 10 times out of 10. If you want a shout out on a future edition of Steelers Talk, all you guys have to do is click that follow button on my Twitter at Jack_Sperry. So here are some shout outs from the latest people that have followed me on my Twitter. So shout out to Mike Flores, Drew, Dylan, and Jerry. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. And if you guys want more Steelers content here on the channel, we got a bunch of videos just waiting for you right here on Steelers Talk. And if you want to get notified of every single time we put out a new video, we try to put out 2 a day for you guys during the week. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button for the most extensive Steelers coverage that you can find for free right here on YouTube. All right. Another pretty spicy segment there, Coop.
A.J. Brown? I'm in.
I'm not going to say it's like definitely going to happen, but if A.J. Brown decides that he wants to go somewhere else, tell me he wouldn't want to go to the Steelers. Tell me that he wouldn't want to go there.
If A.J. Brown decides he wants out, I think the Steelers are at the top of the list. I would agree with that.
Omar Khan has that connection with Howie Roseman. He's got him on freaking speed dial, okay? The second that Omar Khan sees that notification, A.J. Brown demanding trade from the Eagles, he is calling Howie Roseman to see what the asking price is.
The con artist is on the phone immediately.
And you know what, man? If you have to give up Deontay Johnson, a really good wide receiver, and your first-round draft pick this year to go out and get a guy like this, one of the best receivers in the game to pair with George Pickens, another one of the most talented receivers in the league.
I'll say this, though.
Sign me up for that.
I'd rather use my first-round pick, if I'm going to use it in a trade, to go get a quarterback than a receiver.
So you'd rather trade number 20 for Justin Fields
than trade
first and DJ for
100%.
A.J. Brown. I think I'm probably there with you, actually, because you can still sign like Tyler Boyd in free agency. You can still get a good free agent. You don't have to get A.J. Brown, right? There's still lots of guys that fit this system. But if they're like dead set on keeping Kenny Pickett, and it seems like they are, if I have a chance to get A.J. Brown, I am taking that deal, man. I'm taking that deal. Now, what are the chances that it happens? Maybe 5%, maybe less, right? So Coop's got the plate, and he's being a clown. Oh my gosh. All right. So shout out. Frick. I'm not looking forward to this because these plates hurt, bro. So shout out to Christopher Roy for that $20 super chat. Man. Oh yeah. All right. No, that
wasn't good.
That wasn't hard enough.
That wasn't good.
Oh.
That felt off. You can hear it.
Oh my God, dude. Oh, dude. I'm not even going to lie. These plates hurt so much more than the tortillas. Because these things don't break. The tortillas break.
Exactly. You have a little slack.
And you got a little bit of cushion because of the tortilla. This is like a solid, rigid.
No cushion?
David Bauer says, would you trade TJ for Fields?
No.
I'm not trading nothing for TJ Watt. Nothing.
Micah Parsons and CD Lamb. You're doing it.
I'm doing it for Micah and CD. I'm not gonna lie, man.
But there's
no realistic trade package that you could offer me where I am trading TJ Watt.
There's no player 1-for-1 that you would trade for TJ. Straight up 1-for-1. No way.
Yeah, I can't say that there's any player in the league that I would do that. So Christopher Roy says, is this Mike T's last season? It could be.
Definitely possible.
So a couple things not necessarily. So this is what would need to happen for Tomlin to not be back next year. They probably need to miss the playoffs. The offense needs to stink again, and the defense has to regress. Because if he can just blame it on Pickett's play, then he might get one more chance in 2025. And they might get a veteran quarterback in 2025 and try to make it work. But if the defense stinks next year, that means it's time to restart, in my opinion.
The defense was still very good this year.
Exactly. And listen, Terrell Austin, over these last 2 years.
Done a good job.
Not only a good job, a great job. First in the league in turnovers over the last 2 seasons. 5th in points scored allowed. Okay? That is with TJ Watt out for half the season in 2022. Okay? That is without Minkah Fitzpatrick on and off all season. Cam Hayward on and off all season this year. Losing 2 of his starting inside linebackers this year.
Would you trade?
Terrell Austin, this Steelers defense is really freaking good.
There's chatter in the chat. Would you trade TJ for Patty Mahomes?
Okay, yes, I would. Okay, I would. But
he might be the only quarterback, though. I'm not even kidding.
But like I said, there's no realistic trade package that you could offer me that I would trade TJ Watt for. Now, you can say something ridiculous like, What if I traded you the best quarterback to ever play the game? Then of course I'm taking it. But who's trading that player? Nobody. So
nobody.
Okay. So that'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you guys so much. It's been a really fun show.
Standing ovation.
Over $100 in super chats today. I just realized
Shout out
that.
to Kurgan.
Shout out to Kurgan for that 69. Nice. Everyone spam those nices in the chat.
If something crazy happens, we might go live tomorrow. Like if A.J. Brown gets traded to the Steelers.
He's not getting traded tomorrow.
But if he did, we'd go live.
Yes, we would. If A.J. Brown gets traded to the Steelers, or if Justin Fields gets traded to the Steelers, we're going to be going live on the channel. That will not happen
tomorrow.
So make sure you click that subscribe button. We got 171 real ones in the chat. You know what, guys? I want to give some love to the real ones. Everybody spam real one down in the chat. I'm going to give some shout-outs here.
Kurgan says AJ Watch.
Shout-out.
I love it.
I love it, Kurgan. AJ Watch, baby. We got Kurgan down there. We got Dominic. We got David. We got Parker Gamer. We got Brian Ruiz. We got Offsides Edits. We got Eyes. I Am a Slugga. Very nice. We got Christian. We got Steelers Dad. We got M&A. We got W Repost. We got DJ KJ. We got Jacob Wizarak. We got, let's see, if anybody new coming in here. We do not. Nothing is here. What's up, Nothing? Joe L. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's show. We will see you guys later. And until next time,